The morning rush had the city streets buzzing, horns blaring, engines roaring, and the smell of fresh coffee drifting from a corner cafe. A wealthy businessman in a crisp suit stepped out of his luxury car, phone pressed to his ear, barking orders at someone who clearly feared him. His name was Daniel, a man used to power and control. But that morning, he was running late, and patience was something he didn't have. As Daniel crossed the street, a biker stopped nearby, his helmet scratched, jacket worn, and eyes tired but kind. He was just taking a break after a long ride to deliver a package. When the biker accidentally brushed against Daniel's arm, the businessman lost his temper. Words were exchanged, voices rose, and before anyone could react, Daniel's hand jerked, spilling his hot coffee right across the biker's face. The cafe went silent. Everyone stared. The biker didn't fight back. He simply wiped his face, looked at Daniel, and said something quiet, something that made Daniel's confident smile fade for the first time. Within minutes, the man who once looked untouchable was on his knees, begging in a way no one expected. What could have possibly happened in those few minutes to turn arrogance into desperation? This is the story of pride, karma, and a powerful lesson that even the richest man can't buy his way out of respect. Stay till the end, the twist will leave you speechless. Daniel stood frozen, his hands still trembling from the outburst. The biker didn't shout or curse. He simply looked at him with calm, steady eyes that seemed to cut deeper than anger ever could. A few people nearby whispered, "Phone's already out," recording what had just happened. But the biker didn't care about the crowd. He reached for a small cloth from his pocket, wiped his face, and said softly, "You shouldn't treat people that way, sir. The world has a strange way of giving back what you throw at it." Then he turned and walked toward his bike. Daniel scoffed, trying to shake off the unease. He muttered something under his breath and walked back to his car. But when he reached for the door handle, it wouldn't open. He frowned, pressing the key fob again. Nothing. His luxury car, the one he'd just bragged about to a client, wouldn't respond. The biker, who was now tightening the strap of his helmet, glanced back at him once, a knowing look that made Daniel's chest tighten. A sudden downpour started, drenching everything in seconds. Daniel's phone slipped from his hand and splashed into a puddle, the screen flickering out. The street, moments ago full of noise, felt strangely quiet. The biker revved his engine, but didn't drive away. He waited as if for Daniel to realize something. And as thunder rolled in the distance, the rich man's arrogance began to crack. Replaced by a flicker of fear he couldn't quite explain, Daniel's heart pounded as the rain poured harder. Soaking through his suit, he glanced around, hoping someone would offer help. But most people had already taken shelter. The biker sat still on his bike, the engine humming low, his face hidden behind the visor. Something about his calm presence made Daniel uneasy. He wasn't shouting or seeking revenge. He was just there, watching, as if waiting for fate to play its next move. Minutes passed before Daniel realized his briefcase was missing. Panic hit him. Inside it were important files, his wallet, and a set of documents for a deal worth millions. He retraced his steps, scanning the puddled street, but it was gone. The same biker who had quietly warned him now stepped off his bike and walked closer, stopping a few feet away. "You dropped something," he said, holding the briefcase in one hand. Daniel's relief was instant, but the biker's tone stopped him from grabbing it. "Before you take it, I need you to listen." Daniel frowned, confused and shivering. "Listen to what?" The biker took off his helmet, revealing a face Daniel vaguely recognized, someone he'd once seen working as a mechanic at one of his own car dealerships. "You probably don't remember me," the biker said quietly, "but I remember every word you said when you fired me." Daniel's breath caught. The connection hit him like lightning. The man he'd humiliated months ago was now standing before him, calm, collected, and holding everything Daniel thought he controlled. The tension between them thickened, leaving Daniel to wonder just how far this encounter would go. The sound of rain echoed between them, sharp and steady, as Daniel's mind raced. He tried to speak, but no words came out. The biker stood firm, his eyes cold but calm, the briefcase still in his grip. "You told me I'd never make it anywhere without your company," he said slowly. "You laughed when I asked for one more chance." His voice didn't rise. It was steady, almost too calm, and that made Daniel even more nervous. Daniel took a hesitant step forward, his shoes splashing in the water. "Look, I didn't mean," he started, but the biker cut him off with a look. "You didn't care," the biker replied. "People like me are invisible to you until you need something. But maybe now you'll understand what it feels like to lose control." Daniel's phone buzzed faintly in his soaked pocket, the screen glitching as he pulled it out. Several missed calls from his office flashed before it finally went black. He felt helpless, stripped of his usual power. The biker's bike lights reflected on Daniel's face, casting long shadows that made his expression look even more desperate. Then, without warning, the biker tossed the briefcase into the middle of the street. A passing car splashed muddy water over it and sped away. Daniel lunged toward it, slipping and falling hard onto the wet pavement. The biker didn't move, he just watched. The tension in the air was unbearable. Something bigger was about to happen, and Daniel could feel it. Daniel scrambled to his feet, rainwater dripping from his face as he grabbed the soaked briefcase. But when he opened it, his heart stopped. The papers were gone. Only a single folded note remained inside. He unfolded it with trembling hands. The ink was smudged from the rain, but one line stood out clearly. Asterisk, now you know what it feels like to lose everything you think you own. Asterisk, he looked up, but the biker was gone. The street was empty except for the faint red glow of taillights disappearing into the distance. Panic gripped Daniel's chest. That briefcase hadn't just held business files, it had contained evidence of deals that weren't exactly clean. If that information got out, everything he'd built would collapse. He ran to his car again, trying the handle in desperation, and this time the door clicked open. Inside, the dashboard flickered, and then a familiar voice played through the car's speakers. It was the biker. A recording? You taught me that power means everything. Let's see how powerful you feel when the truth comes out. Daniel's stomach twisted. He realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was a reckoning. The biker knew things only someone inside the company could know. Someone must have helped him. Someone close. As thunder cracked above, Daniel's phone vibrated again, this time with a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you still have one chance to fix this. Meet me where it all began. The real storm was only beginning. Daniel drove through the rain, his hands shaking on the steering wheel. The message had led him back to the old warehouse where his company first began, a place he hadn't visited in years. The building stood silent, its metal doors rusted and half open. He stepped out, clutching the briefcase, his shoes splashing in shallow puddles. Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil, just like the early days when he and his small team had worked hard to build everything from scratch. A single light flickered near the center of the room. The biker stood there, helmet off, his face calm but unreadable. You came, he said. Daniel's voice cracked. What do you want from me? Money? I'll pay whatever you ask. The biker shook his head slowly. You still don't get it. I never wanted your money. I wanted you to remember where you came from before greed took everything good out of you. He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket and placed it on a nearby table. This has everything your partners have been hiding. I could ruin you with it, but I'm not like you. Daniel stared, confused. Then why? Before he could finish, a car screeched outside. Two of Daniel's business associates rushed in, the very men who'd helped him in his shady deals. But their eyes weren't on the biker. They were on Daniel. One of them smirked. You really thought we didn't know about your secret accounts? In that instant, Daniel realized the real betrayal wasn't from the biker, it was from those he trusted most. Daniel froze as the two men stepped closer, their voices sharp and filled with accusation. The biker stayed silent, his gaze fixed on Daniel. The truth was finally out. His own partners had been using him, waiting for the right moment to turn against him. The flash drive wasn't a threat anymore. It was proof of what they'd done to... Daniel looked from one face to another and realized the price of his arrogance. In chasing power, he had trusted greed over people. The biker slid the flash drive across the table toward Daniel. Use it wisely, he said. Maybe it's not too late to make things right. With that, he turned and walked out into the rain, leaving Daniel standing in the dim light, surrounded by the echoes of his own mistakes. Hours later, the warehouse was empty except for Daniel, still holding the flash drive. He finally understood that respect couldn't be demanded or bought, it had to be earned. The next morning, he turned over the evidence to the authorities, exposing the corruption that had rotted his company from the inside. It cost him everything, his wealth, his reputation, his comfort, but it gave him something he hadn't had in years: peace. Weeks passed, and one rainy afternoon, Daniel saw the biker again, fixing a car outside a small garage. This time, Daniel approached him with quiet humility and offered his hand. Thank you, he said simply, and for once, he truly meant it.